It's time for Ask Mike Mondays. Mike answers one listener's question every week. Here's Michael Becker and Paul Peebles.
Welcome to Ask Mike Mondays. I'm your host, Paul Peebles, National Underwriter for Old Capital. Joining me today, Michael Becker, smartest guy in the room at SPI. Michael, thanks for joining us. We certainly do appreciate that.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing today?
We're doing well. We call and talk with Michael, being the smartest guy in the room, because Michael and his group over at SPI own 10,000 plus, or have owned 10,000 plus apartment buildings in the great state of Texas. And he offers a great perspective about what's going on, how to operate, buy properties and operate properties and sell properties and have syndication partners in these deals. And so he kind of runs the full gamut. And he has been, as you know, a successful banker that made the transition from lending on real estate to actually owning real estate. And so we certainly do appreciate Michael in the podcast of just hanging out with us and just kind of telling us some great bits of information about how you can be successful and when you get into the multifamily business. And if you're into it right now, how to get even better on it. So Michael, you doing all right?
Yeah. Things are going pretty good. Just in fall here, kind of looking to close the year strong. I can't believe we're almost out of 2020. Just a couple of months away.
So I'm going to ask a story out of school here. You guys just closed on a transaction that wasn't a syndication on a property called the Dillon in Dallas, Texas. Can you kind of walk through that deal, how you found it, how you took it under contract, what you had to do to get it under contract? Can you kind of open the kimono a little bit and tell us a little bit about how you did it? Because that's one of the things that a lot of people who are just getting the multifamily or in multifamily for just a short period of time, they kind of want to be in your position, but they want to kind of understand what they should do to get these deals under contract.
Yeah, well, we closed on that, I guess, almost 2 months ago, as this probably comes out, something like that, 8 weeks ago. A property called the Dillons in Dallas, the Oak Lawn area. And so we actually had a partner who was a referral from another gentleman we bought a property with in January. So we bought a property in Austin in January with a gentleman who had some 1031, and then he referred us his friend who also had the same setup. So we kind of started working with him kind of right before COVID. He actually came in town, toured him beginning of the year. Then his property sold, and was looking to come to Texas. He was kind of owner operating smaller deals and kind of wanted to get a little bit more passive, not kind of run the day to day. So kind of got connected with him, got set up, and the COVID-19 hit. So luckily they extended the identification period with the CARES Act. So we had a little bit more time. And so started looking for a bunch of assets. We kind of had a predefined amount of money. So it was a little bit smaller than maybe we normally would have done, but started looking, and we actually, as stuff started thawing out in June, we found another deal that we actually really liked and started kind of pursuing it. It was a marketed deal. And then through that process, what I thought was a deal that we can kind of take down at a certain price, certain terms, started kind of moving on me as more and more people, I guess, were kind of seeing what I was seeing in that deal, and the price started moving. And so started getting a little bit frustrated with it. And I was touring another asset and kind of mentioned to the broker, hey, I thought I had this deal over here, but, I'm not so sure anymore. Do you have something that would fit this size of equity check that we have? And he kind of brought up the Dillon. So, kind of sounded pretty interesting. Is property that's built in, I think it's 08 or 09, kind of just north of downtown Dallas in the Oak Lawn neighborhood. And I went and drove it on my way home from the other tour. Looked good, put an LOI in that night. We ended up getting countered the next day, and I think within a day or maybe two, we had kind of agreed upon price and terms and got off for the races, and ended up putting a Freddie Mac loan. And I think we did our diligence while we're under an access agreement. So I think after we agreed to buy the deal, the time we were done, I think we signed the contract, maybe 8 or 9 days after we agreed to buy it. And then I think we closed about 45 days from the day that we actually got into to contract. So it's probably about 2 months from the moment I heard the word Dillon to the time we actually owned it. So it's a pretty short period of time. But we had our money put together, and the debt we've done many times, the exact same loan. So it was a pretty straightforward process.
Let's kind of break that down again, because a lot of people don't understand that. So let's speak a little English here. So you had an investor outside the state that knew that they wanted to sell their property in that state that they were currently at, but they didn't want to go back and put that money right back into the state. They wanted to come to Texas. And when they wanted to come to Texas, they didn't probably know very much about Texas, but they knew they wanted to get into a landlord-friendly state. And so they sold their property. They put their money in an exchange accommodator, and then they contacted you, or they called you before and said, hey, listen, Michael, on your advisory business, can you find us, or can you partner with us and find us a property that we can put our money into? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, sort of, right? Well, we had found another gentleman we actually did a deal with, was friends with our partner in this deal. And so he was kind of in the same area, selling for the same reasons, trying to get out of crazy land up high regulated area, and wanted to get out of there and come to, Texas, Florida, Arizona, kind of a little bit more growth market, a little bit more landlord friendly. And so since he had a direct referral from somebody that we were successful with doing a transaction, so we kind of got a warm introduction that way. And then when he was about to put his properties up for sale is when he actually came into town, and we started meeting people, because when you actually have your money in escrow, it's probably not enough time to establish a relationship and make sure you're comfortable with people and things like that. It takes a little bit of dating before you get married, I guess, to use that analogy. So we actually dated for a little bit, had a few phone calls, toured around, showed him some stuff before we actually ever agreed to do a transaction together.
And then he came down when you had found a property or two, and he toured these properties. You liked him. He liked you. You liked the properties. He liked the properties. And then you guys came into a purchase sale agreement together that as a tick into the deal. He brought his exchange money. You brought money to the table too through your group. So you partnered up with raising enough capital into the deal. And then one of the things was that the seller of this property, if I remember correctly, was a large seller in the area. And to take you seriously, you had to write a big check, a big earnest money check to capture the seller's attention. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a large institutional owner. They actually bought this, so it seemed a little mismatched, this property, because it was about, it's 125 units, so a little smaller for what they historically would own, and it's probably a little too small to really get their full attention. So they did okay with it, but they kind of struggled a little bit with it, and that was kind of our opportunity to come in and improve operations and pay a little bit more attention to it, because we're not quite as large as that institution. So that was really kind of the opportunity we liked with it. But yeah, to get the deal taken down off market, because they were contemplating going to market, we ultimately ended up having to put a substantial amount of money, non-refundable, at execution of the contract. So what we were allowed is, once we agreed to buy the deal with an LOI, they allowed us an access agreement. So as we negotiated the contract, we had about a week to go in and do our financial and physical due diligence before we signed the contract, to make sure there was no major issues with the physical asset or the books. And then that allowed us a little bit of time to get our debt put together and make sure that we had a good loan quote, and we understood what we're getting into from a loan standpoint as well.
So I want to, go a little bit farther on that. And just because a lot of people say, well, I don't, how much is a large earnest money deposit? Is it $10,000?
Yeah, $500,000.
So was that turned over to them on day one? Was there a physical due diligence that you had to go through first? Did they give you access to the property?
Yeah, like I said, we had 7 days of an access period to do, walk the units and the major components of the building, do our financial due diligence, and make sure that we went pretty deep with our lender, Freddie Mac, and made sure that we felt comfortable with the terms of the loan that we're going to get. And then upon execution of the contract, that money goes into title and it's non-refundable.
Now, I think that's important to know that, and why that's critical on these deals, and especially with the exchange money that's coming into a transaction. Is the exchange money, as you know, has a time frame on it. You have 45 days to designate, 180 days to close. And so I don't know where he was on this portion of his exchange, but what he didn't want to do is he didn't want to look at 10 more deals and fly back to Texas to take a look at all these deals down the road. So he felt, and the group, including SBI, felt, well, if you make a big splash by capturing the seller's attention, it's going to knock away a lot of other people that maybe can't write that check at the beginning, and kind of locks down that exchange deal to making sure it's going to be going through. So I think that's important for people to know, is that you may have to step up if you're in exchange to write that big check to make sure that you're under contract and you've designated the property correctly and you're moving forward to a transaction that closes. So anything more to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of science to this business, and some of it's art, and a lot of this is kind of the nuance of trying to understand where you sit in the transaction on what the counterparty in the transaction, this case I'm the buyer, they're the seller, what's important to them. And for them to forego the marketing process, they wanted surety of execution, and they didn't really know who we were, and through the process they learned who we were, and that we were closers, and they got the broker kind of in between, assured them of that, because we've done numerous transactions with that broker prior to this, and really putting kind of best foot forward and kind of having a sense of the situation and what the other party wants. Really kind of, made it very obvious that, we got what we thought was a pretty good price, and the economics of the deal worked out really well, and the loan was sizing really well. So let's not mess around, because I try to look at everything. So we looked at, I don't know how many deals, but, dozens and dozens and dozens of deals to get to this one. Actually, we had two, and the other one started kind of slipping away. And this one, even relative to the other one, felt better to us from a financial metric standpoint, and location and quality, and all those things were a little bit better on this deal versus the other one that we're looking at. So we just kind of decided, we know what we need to know. We know we can qualify for a loan. We know we have the money in the bank. We know we'll have a little period of time to go do our physical and financial audit. So let's go ahead and just kind of stick our neck out a little bit and just go take this deal down before someone comes and recognizes what I saw and bids the price up, or maybe takes the deal away from me. So that was kind of the sense that we just kind of saw the opportunity and we needed to go strike. And I think that really kind of separates a lot of these people when they say they can't get deals or do this or do that is sometimes you hesitate when the moment's in front of you, when you need to really just lean in and react. And that's easy to say when you've done as many transactions as we've done at this point, but you kind of get into these deals and you look at a bunch of stuff and it's all relative. And I had a lot of other things to kind of refer to and compare against, and this was the deal, right? I looked at all these deals, and this was the deal that fit exactly what we needed. So we need to go secure the deal, and let's go put some non-refundable money up. And whether it was $100,000 or $500,000, I'm not in the business of losing $100,000, let alone $500,000. So it didn't really matter too much. We were just going to go take the deal down.
It's a beautiful property with the resort style pool. It's on a townhome basis. It has a great view of downtown Dallas at night. It's just absolutely spectacular. So that was a good acquisition. So let's ask you a question. So here's a question for Mike for Ask Mike Mondays. Mike, I've built my team. I have a local presence in my market. I've established a co-GP, general partnership relationship with an established and industry recognized sponsor. I'm now at the point where I'm contacting brokers, but I've found that they're often interrogating me. I have to sell myself and my relationships to be considered to be added to their distribution list. What advice can you give me in overcoming this hurdle? Mike?
Yeah, that's unfair business we talked about for many years, and that's part of it. Those of us who have done a bunch of transactions in the marketplace have a unfair advantage over those that are brand new into it. So, I think getting that credibility, the broker's job is really twofold. One, it's usually driving the economics of the deal, so driving the price up to get a good result from a financial standpoint for their clients, the seller. The other part is assessing credibility of the buyer pool and making sure you pick the right buyer. The object's not to get into escrow, the object's to close escrow and consummate the transaction. So when you're new in the business, that's certainly a struggle. So as far as getting on the list, if you've established yourself with a reputable co-sponsor that have done transactions in the marketplace, that should not be a problem. So I wonder if one, is your co-sponsor really valid and well-known and recognized in the marketplace you're trying to do business? That's the question. Maybe you picked the wrong person, because if if you co-sponsor someone who's done transactions in a business, you shouldn't have a hard time being shown opportunities. So maybe I would consider assessing, who you decide to go into business with. That's certainly one thing I would throw out there. And then the other, I think getting on the list shouldn't be too much of a trouble if you just go basically to their database and sign up and start seeing opportunities. I think really you need to go through, download the packages, sign the CAs, underwrite these deals, and give these broker's feedback and, kind of make sure you need to be able to communicate clearly, how you're going to get the deal done. Where's your debt coming from? Have you been pre-screened and underwritten kind of from a group like, say, Old Capital that can come help you and say, okay, yeah, you can qualify for a $5 million mortgage or $10 million mortgage based off your liquidity and net worth or whatever your metrics are. So, having someone like a third party like Paul or one of the guys at Old Capital kind of give you that credibility that the debt is available to you up to a certain amount of money, assuming the property qualifies. That's a big part of it. And the other part of it is how are you going to go, get the capital, right? So do you have a bunch of money yourself, or do you have a big database and network of people that can help you, go raise capital from? Are you willing to, like I just described, put up some non-refundable or firm earnest money out of the gate? Those are usually some things that you could do to kind of help answer some questions about weakness if you're willing to go through and, go hard with some money, on execution of the contract. That's usually kind of overcomes a lot of that. Even if you're willing to do that, sometimes you still have to overcome the hurdle that you get the deal tied up and you won't actually sign the contract. So making sure you have the right co-sponsor, making sure you have the right lender, making sure you have reputable management company, a lawyer that does business in the area that you're looking to buy in. Those are all things that kind of help. Paul, anything to add from that? You see a lot more first timers, and it's been a while since I bought my first property. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. So you're known through your affiliations of the people you do business with. And so I think Michael's absolutely correct, is that what we see when somebody comes to see us, it's usually a referral. And it's a referral from a listing agent that you may have had a conversation with. That listing agent, listens to you, understands a little bit about what you do. And that listing agent typically is going to say, hey, listen, why don't you call a lender and let's get you approved, and to kind of figure out exactly what you should be buying at. And so then they'll refer you to somebody to go get pre-approval, but there's really no pre-approvals in multifamily like there are in single family, because the property itself is like a fingerprint. You have to be able to show how much income that property is generating. But you sit down, you talk with the lender, and you have the lender understand about how you're structuring the deal. Who's your KPs? Who's your general partner in the deal? Who's going to be the limited partners? Where's the equity coming from? What kind of experience level is? And then they're listening to this, and they're wrapping all this information around their head. And then what you do is that that person, that lender, is going to have another conversation with that listing agent, and that listing agent is going to listen to how strong you are in the deal, because they're getting a lot of calls every day. But I want to buy this, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. But if you listen to having them refer you to a lender, that lender is going to spend more time with you, maybe 25 minutes to 30 minutes, kind of explain a little bit about how we underwrite deals, and then listen to how you structure the deal. And then we'll have a conversation back with the listing agent just to make sure that they're not missing you as the opportunity. So it's just it's an affiliation that you want to get another set of eyes to say that you know your stuff and you're good to go, and that if you do enter into a contract that you're going to be able to step up to the plate and get this stuff done. So always try to, whether it's a lender or an attorney that other listing agent may know, or somebody else that's affiliated with them, try to build your team around who these people know. And again, another thing is, what I don't like to do, and again, I'm preaching here, but I like when borrowers only look in a specific area and then they try to find one area. So it's not like look at the United States and then define that I want to, buy everything in the United States. You want to really define something that I want to buy in this specific state, and I want to buy in this specific county, and almost in this specific submarket. And then you work through the agents that work in that specific submarket. And the reason being is that then if you're not doing that, you're all over the board, and you can't really have a relationship with just one realtor, one commercial realtor. You're going to have a relationship with 15 or 20. It's very, very damn difficult to manage properties throughout the country. The efficiencies are not there. And Michael, I'll ask you this question, and then we'll finish this up. How come you guys don't own in South Carolina and in Utah and then Chicago and Florida and all over the country? How come you've only concentrated in certain areas?
Yeah, well, we really got a good base set up in Dallas-Fort Worth, and then a couple, maybe almost 3 years ago now, we started really focusing on a second market, which is Austin, which is 3 hours away, and where we actually have a physical office. My partner offices out of and lives in that market. So that's it was a natural transition for us. And then, we might buy in San Antonio here before you know it. It's just down the street from Austin. But, focusing on, one market to really kind of start and then kind of get a good base and then kind of expand from there. I think that makes a little bit more sense because, like Paul mentioned, it's hard enough to get, deep relationships with brokers. And if you're in 20 different markets out of the gate and you're scattered and your focus is diverted everywhere and you're trying to fly across the country to go look at this and look at that, it's really hard to establish those relationships and really get access to a bunch of deals. So, I think I would certainly get, a handful of deals in one market before I try to expand to a second, and then, get a handful of deals in that market before I expand to a third market and so forth and so on. I really think that's probably the better way of going. And, at some point we'll probably buy in, out of state, Paul. We just haven't yet, and nothing necessarily wrong with it. We just want to make sure we had our base set up, and we're markets that are big enough that there's 800,000 market rate apartments in Dallas Fort Worth and 200,000 market rate units in Austin. So we have a million potential units we can go out and chase. So that's a pretty large pond to go fishing in for a group of our size, where some of these people will buy in just these little small markets like Greenville, South Carolina, and then middle of nowhere, Iowa, and it's just really hard to focus. And if you do build those relationships with the brokers in that market, there's not much supply, then it's really hard to repeat and take advantage of that, all that goodwill and equity you built up with the ownership groups and the brokers in that market. If there's only 10,000 units or 5,000 units in that market, there's only so many deals that you can go out and buy in the first place. So I'd encourage you to focus on really MSAs that have a million or more. Really kind of get deep in that MSA, buy a handful of deals before you really start focusing on the second and third markets.
I couldn't have said it any better than myself. So some great feedback from Michael. Michael, if people want to get more information about what you guys do over at SPI, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you? And again, what do you do?
Yeah, really the best way is just to go to our company's website, which is www.spiadvisor.com. That's SPI like spy advisor.com. There's a contact us form, fill that out, and we'll always have to have or send out some information and try to start establish a relationship if you potentially want to work alongside us or invest in our deals. That's really kind of what we're really focused on for right now, Paul. Really more than anything, just kind of finding high quality opportunities, taking advantage of this great debt that's out there in the marketplace right now, because who knows how long all that's going to be there. But right now it's unbelievable. So we're just looking, to go find high quality opportunities and go raise capital from the database. That's really what our main focus is right now.
Yeah, I take a look at my savings account that I have some money in, and I'm like, well, right now it's paying me 1.9%. And then when it's off its CD, I think March of next year, it's going to go down to 0.4%. So I think all the world is searching for yield. I can't make the comparison that an apartment investment is the same as a savings account because one is FDIC insured, but the whole world is searching for yield. And it is really amazing that you can start to get maybe a little higher yield in certain types of investments. So guys at SPI, they do a great job. Again, I'm Paul Peebles. That's Michael Becker. Have a great day.